when we started, we introduced different aspects of analysis. Today, we're going to be doing a bit of healthcare analytics or health analytics that involves a data set of diabetes. And we're going to be using it to learn basic formulas. The assignment I gave sort of jumped us ahead by introducing the formulas and the using pivot tables and charts. But here we're going to dwell very, very much on the formulas. For those who were not in the check-in on Wednesday, one of the things we talked about is referencing. We talked about absolute referencing and the relative one. Relative in the sense that it's about it moves with the cells. Let's just remind ourselves of that. So I'm going to do let's do this F, G, and H columns um, using a relative referencing. Just say is equal to, then of course you can see the full F. It's just where we do. Let me write the text here. You can see that I have F there. That is equal to F1. And then if I pull to the side, you see that it follows what is in column G and what is in column H, right? Because I'm using relative referencing. Now, if I convert that to absolute referencing, I just need to put a dollar here and here. Drag again, let's see what it looks like. Just more like previous knowledge. For those of us who attended the last class, you see that it gave me exactly what is in F1 because I've made it fixed. It's fixed referencing. So even if I drag it up or down, it will give me exactly what is in F1 because it is locked into. However, relative referencing involves it moving as you move the columns or rows depending on how you use them. So today we're going to look at different formulas. We're going to do sum, we're going to do average, we're going to look at mean and max. What else is there to look at? Okay, maybe before we start using the sums, and we'll just look at the basic arithmetics that we do, like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. So let me say I want to do all of that. So let's do add. It is pretty easy. Subtract, multiply, just your normal arithmetic. We'll use G and H just for example. Now is equal to, always remember that once you're making a reference to any cell, you use the equality sign. Is equal. I want to add plus. Very simple. Added. Subtraction, same thing, is equal to G minus H. Very simple. Multiply is equals to G multiply. In computer terms, the asterisk sign is for multiplication. Very simple. And divide is equal to G divided by, use the backslash slash this. Very simple. Very simple terms. That's good. Now For what do we want to now deal with today? We want to do sums, we want to do mean, we want to do max, and we want to do average. Now, let's start this way by saying the most important thing about sum, take a look at all the options available if I if I just write sum is equals to sum. We have sum in itself, we have some if, we have some ifs, we have some products, and a host of others. However, we're going to limit ourselves to some and some if or some ifs, depending on if we're able to get ahead of ourselves. Same when I do average. The average, you see average A, you see average if, average ifs, average. We're going to limit ourselves to average and average if and average ifs. All the other ones will come in if we have any advanced class after this.
Mr. Charles, please can you zoom your screen? We're finding it difficult to see your screen properly.
Thank you for saying that. Let's go to view and see if I can zoom. Please let me come out of this before we try to zoom. So let's make it like, okay, that's a bit too much, right? Let's use 200. Is it better this way? Can you hear me? All right, thanks. All right, so we go through it again. So if we want to do sum and average, so let's see if we want to do mean. That's that I have mean A, mean ifs, right? Same with max. Max A, then max ifs. So these things basically have their differences, but let's start with some and see if we can walk ourselves through what that means. So here I want to sum all, though some almost doesn't apply in this case because of the kind of um, data that we have, but let's try that. So I want to sum the average glucose level together. So is equals to sum of this column, the column, and then it will give me the sum of everything in the column. Now, if I do not want everything in the column, I can say sum F2. Maybe I want that of maybe between F2 and F11. That's 10 of them. So F2 and F11. Simple. It will give us our answer that way. These are basic steps in knowing how to do sum. So, but sum, if either I take everything or I do the sum of a particular, um, let's use some ifs. I want to sum if people are, I want to sum only for males. Remember our data here. For those of us have shared this with us, have given us access to check it, to download it, and interact with it. This, of course, will be our data set for week 2. It will form the assignment for week 2. So the earlier you download it, the better. All right. So let's take a look at if we're summing only the average glucose level for males. So I'm going to say is equals to sum if if and some ifs are, if I'm looking at only one condition, some ifs when I'm looking at more than one condition. So let's stick with the, I just want some if they are males. So what will the structure of the formula look like? You can see there that there is a range right here. There's a criteria, then there's the sum range. These are the important things when you're learning formulas. I want to sum the ages of male only. So the range is where you determine if the person is male or not. That is column A, where you can see male, female. Gender, that's the column for gender. Fine. That is our range. Criteria is male or female. So in this case, I'm going to select male first because the first entry there is male. Then sum range is where the numbers you want to sum up are. That's column F. So we're going to write it this way. Sum if range, that's column A, comma, right? Then I'm going to write in the formula male because I want to get that of males. Then the next thing is to select my criteria. My criteria, or sorry, the sum range, which is average glucose, average blood glucose level here. So that's males now. Let's write male in front of it here. Male. Then here we write female. Good. So we'll do exactly the same thing here for the females. Let's add their own average blood glucose level. It's equal to sum if this is our range, remember, then this is, we'll put our criteria is female, and then our sum range where the numbers we want to sum are. So that's basically summing if they are males or females. The same goes for average, the same goes for minimum and maximum. So let's do average and then we'll look on and maximum. So we'll do the same thing again. Male, sorry, male, female. We want to check for average now. I'll do is equal to average, average if this, it follows exactly the same formula or the same syntax. The range, then I want to write one male, so I'm going to write male. Always make sure if you're writing inside your formula, you put a quotation mark that recognizes it as a string or like a word. Then the average range where my numbers are. So here for males, the average blood glucose level for males is 135.07 and all the numbers behind it, milligram per deciliter. Then I'm going to do the same for female, but in this case, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy this formula, right? And then I went to content, then paste. If you check, I'm working in the formula bar where you can see my cursor hovering. All right. So from here, I'm going to change this male to female. Is a little bit lower at 134.95 with all the numbers behind it, milligram per deciliter. Now we've learned or we've gone over how to do sums, average if. Now, this is where it gets really, really fun. What if I'm looking for the average of the blood glucose level of males that have diabetes diagnosis as yes? That's where we use some ifs, or rather average ifs. I'm looking for average. For I want the person to be male and diabetic, male and diabetic. So what's the average blood glucose level of someone that is male and diabetic based on this data? So I say is equal to average. Very first thing here is where it gets a bit different is that I will first select the average range. That is where the averages are. That's where it differs from average if. In average if, the number, where the numbers are, I'm coming, I'll take that question. Where the numbers are is where the numbers are is where you end with. However, in average ifs or in any of the other ifs, you start with where the numbers are before you continue with the criteria. Yes, Munirat, your hand is up. Hi, Munirat. All right.
That was a mistake.
Okay, good. So let's proceed then. All right. So we're going to go to average ifs, and in this case, I want to study my data again. Where is the average? I'm looking at blood glucose level, so I'm going to start right from there. Average ifs, where the blood glucose level is where my averages are. Then we'll now do we'll now follow the syntax of the formula and talk about the criteria range, the criteria. So two criteria here. I said number one, the person should be male. Number two, the person should have diagnosis of diabetes as yes. So follow me as I go ahead. So select where male or female is. That's A, then comma. I'm going to put male. Remember, it has to be in quotation to work. Then the next thing, I'm selecting male from column A. I'm selecting yes from column C. As everybody with yes in column C, it means they have a diagnosis of diabetes. So if you're diabetic and you're male, your average blood glucose level is 135.27 milligram per deciliter. So if there are, I want to see females that are female and let's look for another, not diabetes this time. Females with heart, what's there? Okay, females with hypertension. What is the average blood glucose level? So female and hypertensive also average ifs. Remember that's the selection. Average ifs. Then we have to select where the um, numbers are first, which is here where we want to find the average, and then we'll go over to if they are females. Remember, we'll go to the gender column and input female, and then we go to we said hypertensive, so we come here and say yes. Then we'll close the bracket. Good. So females that are hypertensive, their average blood glucose level is 134.93 milligram per DL. So we've come a long way in learning how to use the if and the ifs. Remember, the major difference is in the way the formula is arranged. Let's go over the difference again for, let's say, average. Same works for, for average and for average ifs. Major difference is that you, by the time you type the average if and you read the formula, you see that here for average if you start with range, then the criteria before the average range, that is where the numbers are. But for um, average ifs, start with the average range before you go with the criteria. That's criteria range one, then criteria. The reason is because when you're doing average ifs, you have unlimited conditions you can bring in. For instance, we brought in if the person is female and hypertensive, you can say what if the person is female and hypertensive and diabetic and has heart condition. All of that can come in. That's why you start with the number, then you start bringing in your criteria range and the criteria. All right. So if we have a basic understanding of this, please do a thumbs up. Do a thumbs up if you have some understanding of what we've covered. All right. I know it's a bit of mathematics, but that's why we're recording this session, and that's why we will take something similar again in the second session with Google Sheet. Though we'll make it a bit different. We'll make it more like a tracker. Now, um, to to round off this, let us do minimum and maximum. So I'm going to clean these ones off. Oh, sorry, I had an open form off, and then we'll do minimum and maximum. But it's also kind of easy. Let's take a look at it. Okay, Olada, you have your hand up.
Yes, sir. Please stop cleaning it so that we can go back to it and check the formula.
Don't
God
worry.
bless you, ma.
All right, all right.
I'm raising my hand for the same.
But this is
Please
this
just bring everything back and
okay. But this is not Google Sheets. So this is Excel. This is my own Excel. So you may not be able to, but yeah, I'll leave the formulas there so that we can go over them again. So let us do minimum and maximum at this point. For instance, I want to know the minimum age of the respondents in this data. Who is the youngest, or what age is the youngest? So I'm just going to say minimum. In this case, what's the minimum? Very simple, 20. What's the maximum? Maximum age here, 80. So that makes it, that's very easy. What if I want to find out what's the maximum age of someone who is, what's the minimum age of someone who has a heart condition here? I've not done this before, so I'm going to just try it. So just, we're going to learn together here. These are not formulas I use daily, so pardon me if I struggle a bit before I get it right. All right, so let's look at the minimum age of someone who has um, diabetes. So minimum, we're going to use minimum ifs as mean ifs. So I'll start again, just like all the ifs we've been dealing with before, like I said. Um, we'll look at where the minimum range is, that is, where are the numbers I'm referring to. These are the numbers. What's the condition? I want to know the minimum age for someone with heart condition here. So heart condition, then I'm going to say yes. Minimum age is actually 20 according to this data, that someone with a heart condition, the youngest person here with a heart condition is 20 years old. So let's look at maximum then. Max ifs. So let's see the oldest person with hypertension. The oldest person with hypertension. So look at the age range again, then hypertension, then we're going to say yes, 80. Is everybody 20 and 80 in this place?
Yes.
The everybody is 20 and 80. So I really need to see that 80-year-old. What's the problem with that person? Okay, that's true because there are several 80-year-olds here. And yes, it is true. I was wondering if something is wrong with my data. Yeah, there are several 80-year-olds, and funny enough, you see at least 1 year in for each, for at least the 80 people. Either the person is diabetic or has heart problem or has hypertension. So our formula is very correct. All right. Oh, I shouldn't clean it. So these are the basic formulas you need sometimes. And for best practices when using formulas, always make sure that your form, because the essence of using formula for analysis is not just for you alone, it is also for other people who you're trying to give the sheet to interpret. So if my data is this much, this is like 7,000, let me be sure. This is like 25,000. This is like 25,000, if I'm not mistaken. No, I'm not. That's a lot of data. Let me be sure again. Yeah, that's 25,000. This is a huge data set. I like it. So 25,000, I don't want to put my totals or averages at the bottom because that's a lot. So I'm going to put it at the top. So here I will insert all these average. Then here I can say what's the average age? Average of as B3 to B25,002. Our last data should be 25,002. Yes, that's correct. So then I cannot drag this across all the for all the averages. That way it is easy for you, okay? Because these are not, these are words or strings. It will not be able to do average for letters. So that didn't work there. But here I can just count, do a count of count if it is yes. And if within this range, that's C3 to C25,000 and 2, if it is a yes. So of this 25,000 and of this 25,000 people, 125, or rather 12,522 have diabetes diagnosis, and then I'll drag that across. So this has now become average slash count, because average for where we have numbers, counts for where you don't have numbers. And looking good, I'm going to put all in the middle. Don't mind me. Here, I will also do one more thing, which is I want to deal with this decimal places. I want it to be just 2 maximum, so that it's easier for me to call. Put this together. All right, good to go. So this is a basic way of understanding our data using formulas. All right, so questions at this point? Do you have questions? So in our next class, since we've learned this, we are going to be working with Google Sheets, and in Google Sheets, we're going to go a little bit deeper than this. We're going to form our summary table in Google Sheets, and I know as you use them, you begin to see which one you prefer to use. For now, I told you that Excel is quite more powerful in handling larger data sets, and of course, because of its the use of Power Query, which we are going to be introduced to in the course of this bootcamp. But for now, Google Sheets is my love, because um, it's just sleek, and because you can connect with other people with it. So if we don't have any other questions, I will just take one more thing, and then we'll move into our next session. So here, find out with this blood glucose level, no, sorry, with BMI, let's use BMI, because that's a bit easier to understand. With BMI, I want to find out if someone is, I copied my key somewhere, so let me go find it. Yeah, I put it in Google Sheet. Find out using their BMI if people are underweight, healthy, overweight, obese, or all the other classes of obesity. So let's take a look at where they fit using their BMI. Pull it with the little time we have left. All right. So here, if the person is less than 18.5 BMI, we'll say the person is underweight. And if the person is healthy weight is between 18.5 and 25. So maybe we should use Google Sheet to do that, because our time, someone just signaled to me that our time is almost up. So we're going to do that in Google Sheet, and that's where we're going to be starting with with Google Sheet. Yes, they're already warning me. It's 2 minutes to our break. So someone asked me, this break, what are we going to do with it? You've been here for like almost an hour now. You may need to take a bottle of water, take tea, coffee, soft drink. I think it's quite hot now, so soft drinks. And please, someone asked if we can take, if we can use some other drinks like in some other bottles. Please now, let's finish. Then you can go. And I know it's Friday. If that's what you want to do on Fridays, TGIF, right? After the session, you can do that. All right. So it's time up, and I'm going to see you in the next session. So the link to the next session is available. Make sure you join me in the next session, please.